Today, we are going to learn how to use for loops in Python. For loops are used for iterating over a sequence in a string, list, tuple, dictionary, or set. Using for loops, we can execute a set of statements, once for each item. This means that for a for loop, it will iterate through each item within a group one at a time. For loops are used frequently in projects where you need to iterate over a sequence and execute a block of code multiple times. For loops are most useful in performing repetitive tasks efficiently. In addition, for loops can handle both numerical and non-numerical data. Now, let's learn how to use a for loop. The first for loop is a for loop of a list. First, let's declare our list. So, we can write colors, which is our list variable, equals hard brackets, in quotations red, comma, in quotations orange, comma, in quotations green. Now, let's declare our for loop. So we can write for to declare our for loop, a, which is our new variable to declare our for loop, in colors, our variable for the list, colon. Then, since the for loop creates a block of code, much like the while loop, the next line should be indented. On that indented line, write print a to track our iterations of our for loop. Now, when we run the code, we can see that on each line, the corresponding item of the list is printed. So, the first line has red, the first item on the list, which is printed in first. Same thing for orange and green. Now, let's learn how to use for loop through a string. In this case, instead of declaring a list, we can use a string in place of where the variable list is. So, we should declare our for loop. So, for b in quotations purple, colon, which is where the variable list was before, then on an indented line, write print b. When run, we can see that each character within purple corresponds with their respective line. So, P is on the first line, U is on the second, and so forth and so on. Now, we will learn how to use the range function. The range function returns a list of numbers, starting from 0 and increasing by 1 in each iteration. The range function will be used in place of where both the list variable and the string are usually held. So we can write for C in range 5, which is where our range function is normally held, colon. Then on an indented line, write print C. Now when we run the code, we can see that it outputs 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is because the range starts at 0, so 0 is the first item, and the last item, which is 5, is not included, so it ends at 4. If you would like for 1 to be the first number, then we can change the bounds of the range function. So, for example, we can write for D in range 1, 6, colon. Then, on an indented line, write print D, and you run the code. You can see that 1 is now the first outputted number, and it ends in 5, because the final number, 6, is not included. Although the range function's default increment is 1, this can be changed by introducing a third parameter. For example, when we write for e in range in parentheses 8, 40, 4, this means that it starts at 8 and ends in 39. And because the increments are starting with 4 instead of 1 because of our third parameter, when we write print e and run the code, it will output 8, 12, 16, so forth and so on until 36, which all of them are increments of 4. From 8 to 12, from 12 to 16, so forth and so on, it will all be in increments of 4 because of the third parameter. Now, we will learn how to use nested for loops. This means that there is a for loop within another for loop. First, we need to declare our lists. Our first list is adj equals hard brackets in quotations red, comma, in quotations purple, comma, in quotations yellow. Then our second list is fruits equals hard brackets in quotations apple, comma, in quotations grapes, comma, in quotations lemon. Now, we declare our first for loop. So, for f in adj, colon, then on a single indented line, write for g in fruits, colon. Finally, write print in parentheses f, comma, g. In a double indented line, because it is part of both for loops, both for f in adj and for g in fruits. Now, when we run this, it will show red apple on the first line, red grapes on the second line, and red lemon on the third line, then continues with purple apple, grapes, and lemon, and ends with yellow apple, grapes, and lemon. This is because the for loop for fruits is within the for loop for adj. So all fruits have to be run for each item of adj, since it is within adj's for loop. So we now know how to use for loops, the range function, and nested for loops. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.